Hold on, I have to put my glasses on so I could really see y'all clearly. It's been a while. I don't even recognize some of y'all. Hi YouTube! Today we're going to do my makeup. My ponytail is all types. Not even my ponytail, my bun. My bun is all types of fucked up, but we're here. Where my phone at? Oh. It's 9:17 in the morning. Try to go back to sleep. Still haven't been able to sleep, so I was just like, you know what? Let me just record all the books I read in 2024. My yearly wrap up. Cause girl, hold on. Let me do this right before this shit falls. This is the stack of books right here. That's actually kind of crazy. It almost fell. My goal was to read 12 books this year. I reached it. I'm a pretty busy person. Literally, if I didn't have shit to do at all, my reading list would probably be twice or maybe 3 times as long. But I read, let's see, 13 books this year. I like that. That's pretty good. One of them I did not finish. I'm still currently reading it, but I'm still counting it because it's still 2024. I'm like, I read half the book. That has to count as something, right? It has to. Mind you, like I was supposed to read a book a month, but I'm pretty sure I didn't start until like maybe like April or March. I feel like if I started in January, like for real, and I had the time, so I was doing a lot, especially like January, I would have been in like the 20s or something, because I was flying through some books like that. I was also reading some pretty thick books, as y'all saw. Like, yeah, let's get into the video. I got my little strawberry banana smoothie I made in the blender this morning. Before we get into the video, I bought a new set of makeup brushes from Walmart. I don't know if these are synthetic brushes, but they're vegan and cruelty free, which I assume means it's synthetic. I don't know. What? No, I made a good proper selection. I'm like blending imaginary eyeshadow. But hold on, my cat's meowing. He don't be eating at this time of day, but since I'm up, I guess he wants to act needy. Hold on. He might just curl up in the corner. He be doing the most sometimes, honestly. But look at it. Look. You know he's not supposed to be on no damn table. Get out. What's wrong with you? I'm gonna go feed him real quick. Alright, I'm back. He is fucking munching. I don't know if you can hear him, but I can hear him. That boy's loud as fuck. Let's begin, guys. Any products you guys want to know that I'm using? Oh my god. Is that even a proper sentence? If y'all want to know what products I'm using, they're gonna be linked in the description box below. Because I don't gatekeep. Hold on, let me put my phone on silent. If you want to know what I'm using. Didn't I just put this shit on mute? My fingernails ain't long enough. But first, a word from our sponsors. The sponsor is me. The sponsor is fucking me. I'm a starving artist and I need your help. I play too fucking much. Let's begin with book number 1. The book is called I'm Glad My Mom Died by Jennette McCurdy. I'm sure you guys heard of this story already. Not only is the title like in your face, like shocking, and it makes you wonder like what is this about? Everybody I know fucked with Sam from iCarly. Like, everybody thought she was hard, iconic, like her butter sock and everything. Everybody loves Jennette McCurdy, low-key. Like, you can't go wrong with Jennette McCurdy. I bought the book a long time ago because I definitely want to read it. It was just something that caught my eye. I read this book after I watched the Nickelodeon documentary exposing that fucking weirdo Dan Schneider's weird ass, and I felt like super sick. She mentions him. She doesn't like drop no names, but she describes his character and all that. I'm Glad My Mom Died is basically about Jennette McCurdy, who is a Hollywood child star. Her mom she's a little crazy. I don't want to say too much. Her mama did. Jeanette McCurdy takes us along her journey of like childhood stardom and acting, which was like forced onto her by her mother, by the way. Her mom basically introduced her to anorexia. She was teaching her poor eating habits. She couldn't eat like sugar. It was just a really strict diet. And as Jeanette like grows older and gets an idea of what it is to be an individual, her battle with anorexia turns into bulimia, because once she finds herself and figures out like she can literally do whatever she wants, especially as she's, you know, heading into adulthood, she's like, wait, I could eat food? She's also like trying to make her mother happy and not put on to her too much weight, because her mom was always saying like, you can't put on too much weight because you won't get the good roles, and the good roles are the child like roles. If you look more like a child, you'll book more stuff. So she would force herself to throw up, and that's also accompanied by OCD, which she shows like little hints of like while she was a child, but like nobody really took it seriously. And she was also struggling with alcoholism in her adult years. When it was time to grieve the loss of her mother, she had to grieve herself almost in a way, because she finally realized that who she was pretty much cosplaying her whole life just to make her mother happy. Like, she really didn't have a personality or an identity for real. Okay, first things first, like my thoughts on the book. Writing style in particular, I was a little bit thrown off like reading the book for the first time, because I was like, oh, like this writing is very childish. Like, why is people hyping this book up so much? But as the story progresses, you quickly realize it's done on purpose. So the language used in the chapters where she's like literally a child is language that actual child would use. The sentences are set up in a way that like a child would speak. A lot of short sentences, short paragraphs, like short and simple. The story progresses, she becomes like a teenager. It's a lot of like teen lingo, and then in adulthood she's a little bit more like well-spoken. Yeah, I forgot to say she be cussing too. I think this book did a really good job at showing how important a child's relationship is with their parent, because Jeanette McCurdy's dad was like kind of absent. Like, he was there, but he wasn't. And her mom was just like an overbearing mother. And later we find out that her dad is not even really her dad, which is why he was kind of absent. She ends up meeting her real father later. I forget what he does for a living. I think he's like a drummer or something. He's some type of musician. She was always like kind of low-key looking for validation from her dad, like always wanting some type of reaction out of him because he wasn't doing enough. Because her quote-unquote father or dad knew that baby wasn't his. That was somebody else's baby. He said, that is not my child, but you know what, I'm gonna do the best that I can. The mom wanted to be a famous actor herself, and because she felt like she failed at that, she forced her dreams onto Jeanette McCurdy and basically forced her to do child acting. And Jeanette did it because she wanted to make her mom happy. Even when she was an adult and she literally didn't need her mother's support anymore, there were still moments where she was like, oh, mom wouldn't want me to do this, mom would, you know, the ages where you're like finally getting a sense of who you are as an individual. And to me personally, I feel like that's the age where you should stop giving a fuck what your parents think. Like, naturally we stop giving a fuck. But she was still worried about, you know, mom still wants me to be skinny, which is outrageous to me. Like, who gives a don't listen to people like that. That's crazy. You need to teach a child a sense of individualism as early as possible so that they're really set in who they are. They know themselves. You don't want your child to be like a yes man and feeling like they have some type of sense of control in their life. I feel like that's important, and that was one of the messages in the book. Also, Jeanette like was always reminding us that mothers aren't perfect, especially her mother, and it's okay to stray away from your parents' ideas of what perfect is. Perfect for them might not bring any type of peace in your own life. It kind of reminds us to be more aware and intentional about where you want to go in life and your goals, and like making sure you're not doing stuff for the validation of other people, but for the validation of yourself, because that's who really matters at the end of the day. When you die and you are on your deathbed or whatever, and you're thinking about all the shit you done accomplished in your life, you want to be happy with what you accomplished. Am I right or am I right? Accomplish what you want to accomplish, not what your parents want you to accomplish. Like, what is that really going to do for you? We don't always have to take our parents' suggestions, okay? Even though they're more like demands, sometimes they're really suggestions. Don't let them tell you otherwise. She also lets the readers know that it's okay to dislike your parents, not for no good reason, but it's okay to dislike your parents for hurting you, especially if you literally cannot fathom why they would ever treat you a certain way. Jeanette McCurdy's mom kind of like really fucked her up in the sense that this lady really taught this child how to properly perform an eating disorder. And her mom was very skinny herself. She was battling cancer, but she also wasn't eating properly. No matter how much you look up to somebody, do not live your life for them. Like, it's not worth it. My only complaint about this book was with her like newfound relationship with her biological father. I wanted to get more details on it. I can understand why it kind of ended there. Yeah, that was really crazy to me, her meeting her biological father. I was like, what? And when I found out that like her dad ain't even really her dad for real, I was like, what? It felt like an episode of Morning, like, damn, he ain't the daddy. Like, who is? And why she kept it a secret for so long, that's the thing. Like, that's crazy. Now you got this man who don't even want to be the daddy for real. Now you done fucked up the whole family dynamic. That is crazy. My favorite part in the book was when Jeanette started going to therapy. Her doctor was named Dr. Jeff. He was a doctor who specialized in eating disorders. And Dr. Jeff just spoke in a way that made Jeanette feel like the issues in her life that she was struggling to fix are nothing to beat herself over. Like, it's okay to fuck up sometimes. You're already trying. It's okay. Every interaction she had with Dr. Jeff was like so memorable and offered great advice for like not only Jeanette but for the reader as well. And I really appreciated those little tidbits. I thought they were very insightful and helpful. I really did not like Jeanette McCurdy's mom. I can't say too much because it's like she has her own mental issues that probably wasn't addressed, and she probably didn't even believe in mental health or something like that. I learned that like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, parents tend to like, oh, you can't be depressed, you have a roof over your head, you have food, this, that, and the third, clothes on your back. And they don't understand like, okay, we have the physical needs, but we don't have the emotional and mental needs. Like, they can't even fathom that, apparently. So, I'm not going to do too much on her, but she was doing too much on my girl. I don't like her. I don't like her. Now, fair warning, a lot of these books on my list were books from literally high school. Like, these are very young adult books. They're on my shelf and I just didn't want to give it away before reading it. That would have been a waste. But yeah, the next book is All American Boys. It's kind of corny. We're told a story from two different perspectives because Rashad, he's a black teenage boy, and there's Quinn, a white teenage boy. They both go to the same school, and Rashad was brutally beaten by a cop for being falsely accused of shoplifting, while Quinn was somewhere across the street witnessing the whole thing. We're told the story from two different point of views from that moment up until the day of a protest that's been organized for Rashad, because, you know, the whole entire town where he's from just felt like he was treated very unfairly. And Quinn happens to have a close relationship with the police officer who had beaten on Rashad. Mind you, the police officer literally put Rashad in the hospital. Like, this man was stuck in a hospital watching himself on the news. The police officer was described as like this big, beefy, like, he was just a whole lot of man. Not really a man though, he's really a bitch for doing that to a teenager, but he was a big dude. The way he was like literally excessively using force, it was dead ass too much. Both characters in the story are faced with the harsh reality that racism is not dead as much as people like to make it seem, especially for Quinn, the white dude. You know, it really shows like his white privilege, and I guess it like kind of takes you through the thought process of the average white person who really believes shit like this, like racism is dead, and also like the racist shit that do be instilled in these people's minds. Because at first he was trying to, you know, take the cop side, because, you know, he has a close relationship with the cop, and I feel like that relationship played into it as well, because he's like, oh, he's such a good dude, but is he really, you know? In this book, Rashad's father is also a cop, and he struggles to see eye to eye with him because his father has a lot of internalized racism. He don't like his own people. Like, he be saying some shit that'll really get him canceled for real. He's kind of basically blaming him for the position he's in now. He's like, oh, if you weren't dressed the way you were dressed, this wouldn't be happening to you. Like, you know, victim blaming. And he didn't need to do all that. While Rashad is dealing with his Uncle Ruckus ass dad, Quinn is discovering how privileged he really is and asking himself questions that he really never felt a need to ask himself up until this point. As the protest approaches, he's feeling more pressure to pick a side. He has two options, and that is to support Paul, who is a police officer who basically raised him, or he can go to the protest and choose to support Rashad. Obviously, he decides to go, because if he didn't, girl, I had to keep in mind that it's like more geared to teenagers, so I was kind of in that mindset while reviewing the book. For me personally, I wouldn't pick it up again as an adult, but I wish it was a little bit longer so we could know what happened at Rashad's trial, because they didn't give us no insight on that. No like insight on the outcome of the protest, which I thought was a little bit odd. Like, so we're just gonna end the story when the white dude finds out, like, this is the set I'm supposed to be on. Okay. That's not enough. I'm sorry. The story do not end where the white guilt begins. I was not vibing with that. I also wanted to know if his relationship with his father changed afterwards, because his father had also confessed to him that he was also involved in a police brutality case. He wrongfully shot an unarmed black child because he was making assumptions, basically. He felt guilty for it, so he stepped down from his position. So yeah, I wanted to know if their relationship got any better, if it got worse. I just wanted to know what it looked like after that. Also, I wanted to know what Quinn's life was like after the protest. Like, did Paul, you know, confront him or something? Like, what was the relationship dynamic like in his household? Because a lot of Quinn's family, majority of his family, was giving Blue Lives Matter. Like, they was just taking Paul's side from the jump. They don't even give a fuck what was going on for real. I don't know. I just don't like the dude. I don't like the way his head shaped. I don't like the way his hair smelled. I don't like the way he wears sandals. Open-toed sandals. I just feel like he was wearing open-toed sandals. They probably never said that, but he gives me that vibe. I don't like that. Quinn also had a friend named Gutso, and Gutso was taking Paul's side like pretty heavily. They were kind of like beefing because of it, and I just wanted to know like what was really going on. I just wanted to know like if Gutso confronted him after the protest or anything like that. These are details the girls are asking for. I also wanted to know if Paul eventually got punished. There was nothing about the verdict, whether he was deemed innocent or guilty, nothing. Like, not even he got away with it or nothing. Like, it was just, we're at the protest now, the end. I didn't like that. It was a beautiful ending, but the story lacked a lot. I just feel like it shouldn't have ended there at all. I literally had a physical copy, but I lent it to a friend. I'll say an ex-friend. I lent it to an ex-friend, okay? It was like a friend within our group, me and my boyfriend. He was doing the most, and we done fell out with him. So, it is what it is. I never got my book back. I didn't care about it enough to like go ask for it back. I'm never gonna read it again. Literally. The next book I read this year was American Street by E.B. Zobar. She a Haitian queen for real. Get into it. I really fucked with that book. Heavy. In American Street, the book follows a young girl named Fabiola. She is a teenager and she is traveling from Haiti to the United States for the first time in hopes of a better life and all that, you know, the American dream. On the way to Detroit with her mother, her mom gets detained by immigration, and they basically are saying that her mom is like coming here illegally, pretty much. It's implied that her mom knew that this was going to happen and she risked her life just to be able to give her daughter Fabiola a better life. That's kind of like a traumatizing experience, and Fabiola had to go on her own to Detroit and find her family there. Now, Fabiola is left to navigate the world of Detroit without her mother, but she has her aunt and her 3 crazy ass cousins. Them bitches is crazy. Now, in the story, Fabiola practices voodoo. She's very familiar with it. Fabiola uses voodoo to help find a way to get her mother back. She is asking a loi. A loi is basically like a spirit or an entity in Haitian voodoo. She specifically asks the loi, Papa Legba, to open doors for her. Papa Legba is a trickster. He speaks in code, riddles. You can't really ask him for something and expect the experience to be wholly good. At the end of the day, she's gonna have to sacrifice something. So Fabiola is forced to choose a life with her mom or a life with her first love and her aunt and cousins in Detroit. When the time has come to make a decision, Fabiola finally realized how dangerous of a game she's actually been playing, as the story soon ends in a tragedy. This book actually fucked me up a little bit, I'm not gonna lie, because Fabiola comes here to America, right? She literally gets to experience her first love without having her mother on her back. She meets this dude named Kasim. Kasim is her love interest, her literal first love. They fall in love. It's like so cute. Their romance is so cute and innocent. Like, it's so crazy. I love them together. I was reading it, I was like, damn, like, why do all the good people have to go first? The reason why this book fucked me up so good was because in order for Fabiola to get her mom back, she basically had to snitch on one of her cousin's boyfriend. His name is Dre. Dre is a drug dealer and he has been lacing people's shit. Like, a lot of people have been dying on like the supply he's been giving people. So when Fabiola asked Papa Legba to open doors for her, Papa Legba basically made it possible for a private investigator to come up to Fabiola and talk to her about getting her to get some information on Dre for her so they can lock him up. Because they've been looking for some shit, but they just can't find nothing. Because, you know, the police never know how to do their fucking job. The FBI, the CSI, the NCIS, they never know how to do shit. She's trying to get some information on Dre because she's like, hell yeah, I want my mother back. No questions about it. Like, I'll be a certified rat, okay? Fabiola doesn't understand the concept of not snitching in Black American culture. Like, what do you mean I can't snitch? What do you mean he's doing something wrong and I can't say nothing? I can't call the police? What? That's funny. That's funny. She doesn't understand that that shit is frowned upon. But she's doing her thing, trying to get, you know, fish out some information. Mind you, Dre and Kasim are like best friends. They're complete opposites, but they're really cool with each other. Kasim sells drugs for Dre sometimes when Dre doesn't really have the time to, or Kasim just needs some extra money or whatever the fuck. Now that you understand that they're best friends, Fabiola had somehow ended up in the car alone with Dre at one point. She basically embodies a specific law. I forget which one, but I will have the name on the screen here if I can find it somewhere. And basically tries to fish information out of him by being alluring, if you will, or a little bit intimidating. She eventually kisses Dre on the lips. That part pissed me off so bad because I'm just like, girl, are you really gonna blame this on the voodoo? I don't understand voodoo for real. Like, can we blame this on the voodoo? Because I really want to blame her. I'm mad at her. I'm still mad at her. I don't like that she did that shit. Because not only is that your man's best friend, that is your cousin's man at the end of the day. As much as a fucking asshole he is, no type of loyalty whatsoever. She finds out where he's going to sell drugs next at this, you know, big party or whatever. She goes and tells the cops. Now the cops get there. As soon as they find the person who's selling the drugs, thinking it's Dre, but it's not. Pew, pew, pew. Shoot, ask questions later. They didn't even ask no fucking questions, honestly. And they killed the dude. Come to find out, it wasn't Dre, it was Kasim selling his shit for him. As soon as Fabiola found out that Dre isn't going to the party to sell the drugs himself, she rushes to the party to try and warn Kasim, but she was ultimately too late, as we know. And it was just traumatizing. And I'm pretty sure, like, later on in the story, Dre comes in to literally beat this girl's ass. So not only is he putting his hands on her cousin, domestic violence is fuck. Okay? That is domestic violence. If you experiencing something like that, get up and go. Leave. I don't care where you go, just go. But he tore her fucking loose. Dragged her down the stairs and everything. That shit was crazy. Like, Dre deserved to die. Well, I won't say he deserved to die, but he was much more deserving of that outcome than Kasim was. Like, let's be real. He puts his hands on women, his drugs is laced, and he killed a bunch of people. Kasim did not deserve that. Kasim was only doing that shit because he was poor. Dre is a real, like, rude ass nigga. He need to go. He gotta go. I wouldn't have been mad if he died. I really wouldn't. I would have missed the nigga. I would have been like, period. I just really wish Kasim didn't have to die. Like, R.I.P. But yeah, this book was an emotional roller coaster. My favorite part of the book, though, literally every single part with Kasim in it, he makes my heart melt. You don't understand how sweet this boy was. He was so sweet and gentle. As much as I hated Dre, another favorite part of the story for me was Dre's backstory, because it finally lets you see the real him and not the asshole. Even though he was beaten on Fabiola's cousin, the real reason he was with her at the end of the day and, like, really didn't want to stop taking care of her, like, he was buying her a bunch of nice shit, I ain't gonna hold you, but it was because Dre had killed Fabiola's cousin's father, like her aunt's husband and shit, so he was trying to atone for his sins. And the thing is, their dad wasn't even supposed to be killed. He was just caught in the crossfire. And so Dre felt so guilty that he just felt like he had to be with Fabiola's cousin. Like, he was cheating on her like crazy and beating on her. Because he clearly don't even like the girl for her. He don't want to be with her, but he just felt bad. And it kind of helps you understand him a little better, but it's still fuck him. I don't give a fuck. Also, my favorite part, Fabiola was getting bullied in high school, okay? And she got into a fight. She got jumped. But she beat both the girls' asses. I was like, period. Period, Fabiola. Get into it. Fabiola was whooping ass. Don't play with my good sis. Next story I read was fucking Carrie by Stephen King. I gave this book the fuck away as soon as I finished reading it, because that shit was on bullshit. I literally gave it 1 star. and you'll find out why. Carrie is a girl with telekinetic powers that's triggered by anger and like deep emotions in general. After years of emotional abuse from her mother and being bullied by her classmates, Carrie just like finally had enough and takes revenge on the entire school and her entire city. Everybody was catching strays. My thoughts on the book, I literally hated it because that nigga said nigga. Stephen King really fixed his fingers to type out Nigger, and literally from that point on I couldn't enjoy the book. It was a weird experience. I wouldn't say I didn't like the writing style, but I just didn't like how the book was formatted, like, and set up. There was no chapters. There was just like very large parts of the book. So it was just like weird for me to stop at a certain part in the story because it's just like, oh, this isn't really the end of a chapter for real. Like, that's not really a con. It's just, it was a little weird for me. I never read a book like that before. But the reason why I hated it so fucking much, Stephen King said some racist shit. I was waiting for, like, okay, this gonna be useful to the plot. It didn't. It absolutely served no fucking purpose for the plot. There was one part in the story where somebody's boyfriend punched them in the lip. Stephen King goes say, okay, listen to this one. Her lips swelled to negroid size. What do you mean it swelled to negroid size? Like, you couldn't just say her lips swelled. White people be doing a lot sometimes. I'm fucking tired. And when Carrie was covered in pig's blood, he gonna say she looked like a tar baby. A fucking tar baby, bro? Mind you, all this shit is narration. Like, this isn't even, oh, a racist character said this. Like, no, this is the narrator. The fucking narrator. Like, it literally served no purpose to the plot. Like, okay, now we know the narrator's racist, but for what? Why? No reason. He's just racist. The narrator's racist. Okay, Steven. And when I went online to see how many people don't realize or talked about this, or if like any of his other books had shit like this, people were trying to excuse the shit. Like, oh, he was on coke. Listen. If I snort a fat ass line right now, I promise you, I would not be saying no racist shit. I am so confident in that. Cause it's like, dude, the fuck that gotta do with shit? You know how many people I know who be on coke? They don't be saying racist stuff. You're like, Belly, who you know that do coke? I'm just talking, y'all. But yeah, Tar Baby is fucking crazy. I didn't like it because it just wasn't scary. Like, I feel like I got it because it was like, okay, he's known for like horror books and shit. It didn't creep me out the way I wanted it to. And that was like kind of disappointing. It was just like, oh, she mad. And she taking it out on the whole city. I feel her, but it's like, it's not scary. And the critics, there was a review. They was like, oh, this book gonna make it hard for you to sleep at night. They fucking lied. They lied. Like, why do they lie like that? They did not need to say all that. Maybe for like, when was this book written? The 60s or something? I don't fucking know. Maybe back then, because, you know, motherfuckers used to get scared by anything. I don't know, it just wasn't scary. You know, we were talking about you can't sleep at night after you read this. Like, please. Girl, I slept peacefully. I don't know what the fuck they was talking about. I didn't have any, like, favorite part in this book. Because, literally, I could not get past the fact he said nigga. And he said Carrie looked like a tar baby. Like, how can I have a favorite anything in this book? Like, bitch, you doing too much. That shit was honestly disgusting to me. Negroid lips, like, I think I just, like, didn't want to not finish it because I wanted to see what the fuck else he would say. It just got progressively worse. I was just really like, wow, why do people love Stephen King so much? That was odd. But you know, I'm not surprised. Next story I read was Dear Martin. This was also a story that I had since like high school days that I was just like, okay, let me just read this because I don't want to get rid of something on my shelf that I literally never read. I want to at least give it a chance. You know what I'm saying? Dear Martin by Nick Stone is about a kid named Justice, a high school student at the top of his class. And after he's accused and like wrongly arrested, he starts a personal project called Dear Martin, and it was supposed to be him writing letters to Martin Luther King in hopes of understanding the world around him and how to interact with it, because he's like experiencing racism firsthand, and the only person he knows who handled it so graciously was MLK. Now, Martin Luther King obviously isn't alive, but he writes it just to, like, you know, it's kind of like a therapeutic thing. The book was very emotional and was honestly way better than I expected it to be. I thought it was going to be like super corny, honestly. However, the amount of drama seemed too unrealistic to me. But I was still like eating that shit up. It addressed everything I hoped it would by the end of the story. I also learned and relearned a lot of information in this book. And like just Googling its references, like the Jim Crow Museum, I suggest that y'all look it up. It was mentioned in the book. They have a virtual tour of the entire thing. Like, I sat down probably for like an hour or so just looking at all the exhibits in the Jim Crow Museum. It just gives you a well mapped out timeline and depiction of racism in America. I would 10 out of 10 recommend this book for a teenager. My favorite part, I can't lie, I loved it every single time a racist person got their fucking ass beat down to the ground. What can I say? You see my skin color. The next book I read was I'm Not Dying With You Tonight by Kimberly Jones and Gilly Siegel. This book is also from high school days. I don't know what was up with me in choosing a lot of like books centered on racial issues. The book is about this girl named Lena, a black student, and Campbell, a white student. So they're both at their school's football game when a fight breaks out, leading to several people being shot or hurt. And while they're trying to escape the chaos, they run into more trouble as they come across a peaceful protest that turns into a riot. And now that they're like trapped inside all the madness, they're determined to make it home safe together and are forced to trust each other with their lives when they just met. And, you know, they got off to a pretty rocky start. It's not the greatest story, in my opinion. I felt like the real issue wasn't talked about enough. However, both perspectives were well written and felt authentic. It didn't provide as much insightful information as I thought it would. Lena's boyfriend, his name was Black. I hated him. He did not care about that girl's safety at all. While she was in the riot, like, he knew she was like in the midst of everything trying to get home, and he was not doing his best to reach her. He was just doing him. He didn't give a fuck. Also, Peanut. So Campbell's dad owns like a hardware store, and you know how riots go, they break into stores and whatnot. And Campbell comes up to the store. She's distraught, like everything's fucking gone. Her dad is not that rich, like he worked very hard to get where he was, and she was just super sad. Come to find out, Black comes and picks them up in the middle of everything just to take them home. And they open the trunk so they can put their shit in the trunk. She sees all her dad's shit in the trunk. Mind you, they're in Black's friend's car. His name is Peanut. Peanut done stole her dad's shit. Campbell's pissed. She gets to yelling. She's like, you better put my daddy shit the fuck back. Like, what do you think this is? White girl was really turning up for real. They ended up putting everything back on her front porch when they get home. That was like my favorite part, when she just stood up and defended her dad's store with her life. Mind you, Peanut is waving a gun around, just trying to claim stolen goods. That's not his. And the rightful owner is right in front of him. He can't even have the decency to be like, alright bro, you can take that shit, you can have that, I'm sorry. But no, you want to wave his gun around like a fucking bum and threaten to shoot people over some fucking hardware. That is some loser ass shit. I'm sorry. The next story I read was Internment by Samira Ahmed. Right? That's how you say it? Ahmed? You gotta do the... Okay, the story follows a 17-year-old Muslim girl named Layla, an American citizen, as her and her family get their rights stripped away from them after the president orders a Muslim ban that causes like a terrifying relocation of multiple Muslim families all over the country into an internment camp. An internment camp is basically a prison camp. They keep all the unwanted people in there and basically abuse them, like mentally, physically, emotionally. So after being declared an enemy of the state and wrongly imprisoned without trial, Layla fights her hardest to resist injustices and demand freedom within the internment camp. Thus, it's not an easy fight, and there were casualties along the way. Layla and the other internees and protesters from the outside that were like gathered stand united in the face of evil. In the end, they come out victorious, but life will like literally never be the same after all the shit that did happen in that internment camp. Because the director of that internment camp was literally so fucking evil. Like, I cannot stand him. I can't. The story was written like pretty well. It was pretty long, but there was never a moment where I felt like anything that was written down was completely unnecessary. I felt like every single word in that book was necessary. It was a pretty emotional story, and the pacing was perfect. And the description that the author gave, like, it really allowed me to be completely immersed in the story for real. It depicts what happens inside internment camps in a very real way. Like, there's literally no happy ending. I didn't expect one either, but of course it makes the story that much more like devastating. I just really wish Sohail didn't have to die so young. Sohail was a friend of Layla's inside the internment camp. He was a sweet boy. But they would plot to, you know, find ways to bring awareness to the situation and, you know, organize little protests within the internment camp. There was also a moment where the director tried to shoot at Layla. Jake, who was a officer in the internment camp, who was also Muslim, by the way, he was just like one of those people who was just an insider, but nobody knew that he was working against them. Like, he was there for the cause. Salute to him. But one day the general or the director came and he was like so mad that he just I'm sorry, I probably shouldn't have done that. Jake jumped in the line of fire. Shout out to Jake, okay? Jake from State Farm? No, Jake from the internment camp, okay? Jake also died, obviously, because he was protecting Layla, but it was just like, bro, this is what we gotta do for progress, bro. Are we that ass? With that being said, though, the director was very well written. He made me extremely uncomfortable, sad, angry, and that's exactly what he was meant to do. He was literally the perfect villain. No complaints in that department. But fuck him. My favorite part was the final protest, where Layla had the support of the exclusion guards, the other internees, and other protesters. Because I need you to understand why this part was my favorite for me, because a lot of the other internees were just scared to speak up and do something and really like just band together to fight for their freedom. Even Layla's parents, they were like so against the fact that she was so outspoken and vocal about the unfair treatment of everyone. And her parents, for the sake of her safety, they just wanted her to be quiet and pretty much invisible so that she can stay safe. But because she was so outspoken, her parents were getting beaten on just because she chose to be vocal about the issues she was facing within the internment camp. She also had her boyfriend sneak in with the help of Jake to get written testimonies to be published on the outside on like newsletters and stuff like that. So she had the support of the guards, the other internees, and the other protesters on the outside, which led to her boost in confidence that allowed her to read the director to filth. She said exactly what she wanted to freely because she felt the immense support from everyone around her. And when I tell you, girl, the director did not want to hear about himself, honey. He was tight. He was so mad he upped the blicky on that girl. Like, what? Relax, sir. Relax. Alright, so the next book I read this year, it was long as hell. It was Game of Thrones by J.R.R. Martin. I decided to read the book because I loved the show. Like, Game of Thrones eats down. I just don't love the incest, okay? This is like the first book of the series. There's 5 books. The series is called A Song of Ice and Fire. This series follows the perspective of multiple noble families as they fight for the right to the throne. They are in a country called Westeros. And not only is war brewing, but winter is also coming. Now, what that means is all the monsters come out to play. So they have a wall built that protects the realm, and beyond the realm is like a bunch of supernatural entities, and there are a group of people called the Black Brothers that watch the wall and guard it to protect the people of Westeros. Should I do a red lip balm? I will say that the first book is definitely better than the corresponding episodes in the show. Oh Lord! Ooh, my eyes is burning. Ooh, my eyes is burning. Chill. It has like way more fantasy elements, and I love that. It went into detail about each character's emotions and thought process. Also, the story of the Godswoods and the Children of the Forest. I don't feel like they stressed the importance of it to the people of Westeros in the show as much as they did in the book. Another thing is there was less sexual violence. I feel like they played it up a lot more on the show. I definitely recommend reading the book. My favorite part would have to be when Arya disarmed Joffrey. It was so different from the show than like in the book. In the book, oh, Arya got disrespectful. Not only did she disarm him with a wooden sword, okay, she hit him in the back of the head with a big ass rock. And then she took his sword, and instead of keeping it for herself, because y'all know she loves playing with her sword, instead of keeping it for herself and like basically like jacking his shit, she takes his sword and throws it in the fucking river. She's doing all this, and meanwhile he's on the floor begging for mercy, just for him to like act all big and bad later and try to get her, you know, direwolves killed. Like, Joffrey is a real evil man. We all know this. I don't like him. I feel like it really just shows how fierce Arya truly was. The next book I read was A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. The book is about this girl named Andy Bell who was said to have been murdered by her boyfriend, Saul Singh, who then killed himself afterward, allegedly. The main character, whose name is Pip, is a high school senior, and she decides to re-examine the case for a high school project, and she discovers a ton of secrets. And the more information she uncovers, the bigger the target on her back becomes. Because the killer is still loose and very much alive and free. They've been threatening her throughout the story to leave the case alone, because she's onto something, you know? The killer's just like, bitch, wrap it the fuck up now. So throughout the story, Pip struggles between choosing the safe thing to do and the right thing to do. My thoughts on the book was, it was honestly kind of childish and unrealistic. Like, just walking into a drug dealer's house after threatening him. I don't know, it was just a lot going on. Because of how unrealistic it felt for me, I was wondering if the author did any proper research at all for some of the scenes, but it's whatever. The plot was good. I heard this shit turned into a show, so maybe I'll check it out. It'll probably be better and more refined, but the story could have been written a little better. And also the ending felt rushed. Maybe it's just not for me. It was kind of giving Pretty Little Liars in a way. The next book I read was 5 Broken Blades by Mia Corland. I fucked with that book. So the book is about the 5 most dangerous liars in the land. I have my sticky note right here still. We love a queen who takes notes. So first we have Royal. Royal is Royal. I almost want to roll my R when I say it. He is a muscle for hire, so you basically hire him to murder people, like anybody you want. Pick who you want. I'll kill him right now. That's who he is. And then we have Aerie, who is a woman who is also a thief. And she's really good at it too. She's not a noble, but because she stole so much and she's really good at it, she got money. Like, she got money for real. Call her Big Money if you want to. Next we have Sora, who's a prostitute assassin who is trained and specializes in poison. Like, she was forced to go to this poison school, and they basically tested a bunch of poisons on her. So much so that, like, she's basically immune to poisons now. Next we have T-Young, and he is the son of the Count who owns Sora. I hate to say a man owns a woman, like, what? Ugh. The son is literally there just to make sure that Sora does the job that the Count ordered her to do. Sora usually kills people that the Count orders her to kill. Like, it's very normal for him to be like, yo, I need this nigga gone today. Yesterday, matter of fact. So she's used to doing that, but she doesn't know that at the end of this, the Count's son is supposed to kill her. The Count don't give a fuck about her no more. But she's literally only doing this so that the Count can set her sister free. That was what the Count promised her, and that is what's motivating her to do this. And what he ordered her to do was to kill the king. And she's like, huh? She wasn't gonna do it at first, but the Count was like, if you do it, I'll free your sister. If you don't, I'm gonna kill her. The king has this crown that has supernatural abilities that makes him literally impervious to any type of attacks whatsoever. This crown makes him immortal. You cannot kill him. So you have to figure out a way to take the crown off and, you know, do what needs to be done. Next, we have Ewan, who's like a bisexual prince who faked his death. Nobody is supposed to know he's alive. And then we have Mikhail, who's a royal spy master for the king. So he's familiar with the king. He's all up in his shit. That's my thoughts on the book. I was about to push out my glasses. I don't even got glasses on, girl. The suspense is really what got me hooked. Like, the mystery aspect of it, just trying to figure out, like, what's really finna happen at the end of this. And there was, like, a major plot twist and also a crazy ass cliffhanger, so I'm definitely getting the second book to see where the story goes. The plot twist was, you know how everybody was, like, pretty much summoned to, like, conspire to kill the king, and nobody knew, like, who was the head person to actually set all this shit up. Come to find out, it was the king himself who set everything up to see if the best of the best is really the best of the best, to see if they could actually take the crown off his head and attempt to kill him. So the way that it happened was that the king was chilling. He had a crown on his head that wasn't the real crown. It was just a replica. And the real crown was, like, on his arm, up his sleeve, tucked under his robe or whatever. So the group successfully conspired and got to the king, took his crown off and everything. But when they tried to stab him or whatever, or kill him, he didn't die. And they were confused. And it was because, you know, he had the crown on his arm and he set everything up on purpose, just to say, yeah, I just needed to find out if y'all were really about that for real, so I can send y'all to kill my sister, because she doing too much in her region or whatever. So yeah, I'm buying the second book, best believe. My favorite part was in T-Young. Oh my god, he was so sweet. He was just such a sweetheart the first time him and Sora had a meal together, and he was, like, beyond chivalrous. He was saying stuff like, I think women should always get the first pick. I was like, your daddy may be fucked up, but you turned out alright. The next book I read was a poetry book. It's called The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, I don't know. I felt like I related to it a lot personally, so that's probably why I liked it so much. But this book of poems takes us along Xiomara's journey to finding her voice and strength through writing poems. She talks about the issues a young girl may face when, you know, going through puberty and developing a womanly body, whatever you want to call it. And because her body is so developed or whatever, it makes the boys go crazy. And she hates it. She really hates it. And it also talks about her stance on Christianity, how it kind of shaped her views on the religion itself because it was forced onto her by her parents. She also talks about what it feels like to follow your dreams and what it's like to fall in love with a boy and, like, trying to navigate that relationship and set up dates and things like that when you live in a household with strict parents. Lastly, she also touches on toxic relationships with parents and how it can lead to you hiding your most authentic self from them as a way to like make them happy and please them by portraying yourself as someone they would want you to be. I'll tell you my thoughts on the book shortly, but let me just go change into a black top. I feel like this face is not giving what it needs to give with this gray ass t-shirt with Tupac on it. I'll be right back. Alright y'all, I'm back. Let me just put this earring in, fix my hair. While I was reading, I honestly felt like all of Xiomara's thoughts were my own. It honestly felt amazing to know that like I'm literally not the only person that be having these type of thoughts, like in regards to religion, my identity, like my relationship with my parents and all of that. And the main character in the book mentioned how it was important to be the one to tell her own fucking story because it's important for other people to feel seen and heard after, you know, she would recite one of her own poems. I do, however, wish that the story continued a little further. The end felt a little rushed. I wanted all the details on how Xiomara and her mom got back on better terms. That I just felt like wasn't explained enough for me. I just wanted to know how like they got over their issues because her mom was a little crazy. She was crazy. She burned her poetry book and everything. Like, it was insane. And I was like, damn, this girl can't express herself? Whatever. My favorite part was when Xiomara's mom burned her poetry book and her mom started reciting Bible verses while Xiomara was standing in her face reciting her poems right back at her. I felt like that was such a powerful moment for her. And while she was doing so, she told her mom that these poems are literally a part of her. So she just straight up asked her mom, like, are you gonna burn me too? Like, are you gonna burn me alive? I loved it because like being able to stand up to your parents like that can be scary sometimes, but when you finally do it, it's like such a powerful and like relieving moment. Like, you just feel like a whole lot of weight is lifted off your shoulders once you finally talk back to your parents for once, and you finally at that age where like nobody can beat your ass, so what the fuck is you? I can say whatever I want now. Like, yeah, who gonna beat me? Nobody. Bitch, I'm strong now. I bet you have my family scared of me now. And they should be. The next book I read was Bride by Ali Hazelwood. I don't typically pick up romance books. I just been chilling on romance books for real. But I still liked it nonetheless, don't get me wrong. This story is about a vampire girl named Misery and a werewolf named Lo. They're forced into a political marriage in order to keep peace between the two species. Misery is the daughter of a councilman who's like the most influential person in their nest. And their nest is just like, you know, the community of vampires, and Lo is the alpha of his pack. When Misery just like finally complies with the marriage, even though she really didn't even have a choice for real, because she knows that Lo can lead her to information regarding her best friend, whose name is Serena, and Serena had went missing a while ago. But what Misery doesn't know is that somehow she's Lo's mate. Y'all know when werewolves meet their mate, they go crazy. They go crazy. But Misery had no idea why Lo was acting so like bizarre. Like, it's like 1 second he hates her and 1 second he fucking loves her and so tender. So Misery just slowly comes to the realization while Lo tries to hide his like love and just pure infatuation with her. Like, this boy is obsessed. He's literally obsessed. Like, if he could smell in between her toes, he fucking would. But it's just like a whole confusing interaction for both of them, because it's like, bro, in what world are werewolves and vampires compatible for real? I loved how cheesy the romance was, honestly. Like, I haven't read a romance book in a long ass time. This romance book had me like, it was a roller coaster of emotions. I was pissed off for them trying to act like they not obsessed with each other, but it was really cheesy and I love that. And I really love the fact that Lo just wasn't an asshole at all. Like, there wasn't nothing I hated about him. I thought he was gonna be like one of those dominant werewolf alphas that's kind of cocky and you just hate him at first. Literally, he was never an asshole except for the times he was trying to push Misery away as a defense mechanism, like just literally not trying to admit his love for her. Other than that, 10s all across the board. Like, he was top tier man I've ever read in any romance book ever. And y'all know, like, last time I really was reading romance books for real was in high school. And in high school, them niggas was toxic. Why was we reading those? And we was eating it up like, yeah, I want something like that. No, do better. The plot was very entertaining. And the sex scenes were perfectly paced, very nicely spread out. Like, they didn't jump right into bumping bumpers. You know? We had a lot of moments where it was just like kissing and touching before they actually had like any type of intercourse. So I really like that because I don't like when books just straight up jump into that shit. Like, calm down. It's definitely a slow burner, so be prepared for that if you do choose to read this book. But the plot twist, it was for sure a shocker, okay? I was also relating way too hard to Misery, okay? It was kind of embarrassing. I was relating way too hard to Misery, feeling like she didn't belong anywhere in particular. Like, she was half human, half vampire, so she didn't fit in with the humans, she didn't fit in with the vampires, and she definitely didn't fit in with the werewolves. And I also related to how oblivious she was to those feelings for her, because that's very much me. I cannot read and pick up on any type of social cues whatsoever. I'd be fucking lost. Okay, my favorite part, I might be a little toxic, but I love the parts where Lo is being possessive. I also love the parts where he was like obviously in love with Misery, but she was too oblivious to notice, like when he was massaging, or not even massaging, he was like stroking the bottom of her feet. Like, that was so cute. The next book I read was, this is the Iliad and the Odyssey in one book together. But I only read the Iliad because I didn't want to read the whole thing through. I wanted to read the Iliad, give myself time to process it, read some other books in between, come back and read the Odyssey. I need to let y'all know, I had authority issues in high school. Like, any book they told me to read, I did not fucking read that shit. I don't know why. I don't know what my problem was. But if I didn't choose to read it on my own time, I was not reading that shit. I'm sorry. If the subject wasn't math or science, I was so uninterested in doing any type of material. I did absolutely none of my homework all throughout kindergarten through elementary school. And I got to 5th grade and my teacher was like, yeah, you're not gonna get away with not doing your homework in this class. And I was like, oh shit, shaking in my boots a bit. But I definitely went to summer school in middle school. And part of it was due to the fact that I really didn't want to do my homework. That brought my grade down a lot. And because I wasn't doing homework, I wasn't comprehending any of the material, which led to me failing a lot of my tests. So I had this thing where I was just like, I'm going to read a lot of the books that I was required to read in school and see what it's about. What's up with it? Like, what was they trying to teach me for real? But I decided to read the Iliad by Homer. And the Iliad is an ancient Greek epic poem, and it tells the story of the Trojan War. Now, I recommend doing a little bit of research about what happened prior to the Trojan War and why it even started to begin with. The story focuses on like the last few weeks of the war. Achilles is a Greek warrior. He's a really great warrior for his age. It also focuses on this Trojan warrior named Hector. What happened before the Iliad that caused the whole war was that Zeus was like very paranoid about Thetis birthing a son that would surpass him. So not only did he avoid her like the plague and not give her the opportunity to birth a kid that's 100% a god and would soon overthrow him, so he made sure to set up and arrange a marriage for Thetis to marry a human. At this wedding, everybody's vibing and chilling or whatever. There was someone, I forgot her name, but she's the goddess of discord. She didn't get invited because, girl, you hear your own name. You're the goddess of discord. You cause too much discord. Don't nobody want you a fucking around. She wasn't invited, so she decided to go drop this golden apple in the middle of the party, and it said, "To the fairest" on it. Now, these 3 goddesses started arguing about who's prettiest because they were like, I want the apple. It belongs to me. I'm the prettiest. And they asked Zeus to decide who's the prettiest. He's like, I'm not finna be involved in this bullshit. So he chooses a human named Paris to decide. So these 3 goddesses who are arguing amongst themselves is Aphrodite, Athena, and Hera. They're like not even just asking him who's pretty at this point. They're like basically bribing him. I forgot what Athena and Hera promised him. I think one of them promised him like riches and whatever. But Aphrodite was like, if you pick me, I'm gonna give you this girl named Helen. She mad pretty, like, but Helen is married, okay? She's married to Menelaus, right? Menelaus. So he chooses Athena's promise or gift or whatever. So he was like, yeah, Athena's the fairest. Let's go kidnap this girl. So they kidnap this woman, and basically the war breaks out because of a woman. Why does it always boil down to the woman? Like, why do we have to be the problem? Whole time the men is the problem. They was trying to gaslight us throughout this whole story. Like 10 years of war over a shorty. So that all happened before the war, and Thetis births Achilles. At first, I thought this whole story was fucking stupid. The story is just so fucked up all around. I guess that's how the times were back then. Like, women were just not seen at all. They weren't heard. And also just like treated like shit. And it's just like, damn. And they over here they're addressing women as the prize. Like, women they've literally like kidnapped from war as rewards to themselves, and just like women that's been gifted to them, they're called prizes. And it gave me the ick. It made me go like, ugh. Like, who is still calling themselves the prize? Let's stop it. Let's stop it, because when they was calling us the prize, they did not mean anything good about that shit. But by the end, I realized that was kind of the point, the irony of the situation. The glorification of war was like very prevalent throughout the story, and being someone who was heavily involved in war was way more valued than someone who was involved with their family. That's embarrassing. And even with all that being said, the tragedies of war was very clear, and people were very knowledgeable of that. And still, at the end of the day, both sides regretted that the war even started. This book is so ironic, it's like so crazy. Damn, like, y'all really could have been at home with your kids. And also, another thing was that fate was like such an important part of the story. With this comes free will, but ultimately at the end of the day, we learned that nobody can outrun fate. The gods were very important figures who mortals, they had a lot of faith in them and would often give sacrifices to them. The people who gave better offerings were favored more, which is, I guess. Friendship was also very important when it came to the story of Achilles. When his friend named Patroclus was killed wearing his armor because he was supposed to go into the war to pretend to be Achilles. Achilles wasn't fighting in the war because Agamemnon basically stole his girl. So he didn't want to help him anymore. So Patroclus was supposed to take his place when the Achaeans were getting their ass beat and help them. He was supposed to wear Achilles' armor and pretend to be Achilles so that people can, like, you know, tremble in fear, because Achilles was a really great warrior for his age. Like, he was really good. He struck fear in a lot of people's hearts. So when Patroclus died while fighting in place of Achilles, it stirred a lot of strong emotions within him. Achilles became so bent on revenge, and it was like a perfect example of how revenge never really satisfies you. It only makes you feel worse. So that part was honestly my favorite part. Achilles basically goes on a rampage and kills a bunch of Trojans, and also kills Hector, who had killed his friend Patroclus. He kills Hector, ties him to the back of his chariot, and rides around Patroclus's dead body. So Achilles is sitting here thinking he avenged Patroclus's death, so like he's expecting to feel better, but he doesn't. Then Hector's dad comes and he begs for Hector's body back, like, just give me his body so we can give him a proper burial. And it reminds Achilles of his humanity, so he gives back the body. And yeah, if you want to know more, definitely read the book. I say it's pretty good. I thought I was gonna hate it for real, but it's a good story. The next book I read was If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nolan. Let me tell you, this book made me cry. Okay, it made me cry. The book is about two kids named Finny and Anna. They're childhood best friends, and during their journey through high school, they become distant and they develop friendships and relationships of their own, you know, without each other. As graduation is nearing, Autumn can't help but think about the feelings she has for Fenty. Like, she actually loves him. And not love him as like a best friend, she loves him more than a best friend. She tries to make things right between them before it's too late. There's definitely a love triangle thing going on. A lot of love and loss. I thought the writing style was pretty childish. Again, it's a young adult book, but it's giving high school. The story itself though, it was really cute. I liked it. The journey Autumn went on to find herself, like her identity, her personality, just her as a person, it was a long one, but it was beautiful. And her sense of individualism and weirdness was very relatable. And I really loved how Autumn and Fenty finally got a chance to just have their moments together and be a little bit more intimate, like on a romantic level, you know? But the end of the book fucking broke me. Like, by the time they confessed their feelings for each other, like, it literally felt like it was a little too late. But also just in time, if that makes sense. I probably was crying for like 10 minutes. And basically, Fenty gets into a car crash while trying to break up with his current girlfriend so he can be with Autumn with no distractions, nothing holding him back. And, you know, on his way back home to drop off his ex-girlfriend or whatever, they get into a car accident and he doesn't die from the crash. He gets out to go and help his ex-girlfriend, and she's like by a puddle of water. In this puddle of water there's like a loose electrical cord or something, and he steps into it and gets electrocuted to death. It was just really sad, and it was just like, it put a lot of emphasis that you really have to do whatever your heart desires before it's literally too late. After Autumn finds out that, you know, Fenty died from this crash, she was like in a depressive episode for days or probably weeks, I don't even remember. But she goes into Fenty's room, which is literally next door to her. Fenty's family and Autumn's family, they're super close. They like have access to each other's house whenever they want. They don't even need a call beforehand. No announcements, no nothing. But Autumn goes into Fenty's room and she decides to commit suicide. She feels like she can't live without him, and she feels closer to him in his room. Her attempt fails, and when she comes to, she finds out that she's pregnant with Fenty's baby, and she finds a reason to live again. It's like a manifestation of their love for each other, like a physical human being as proof of their love for each other. It was so tragic yet so beautiful at the same time. Last book, okay, but not least, The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini. I don't know how to pronounce his name for real, but hopefully I said that right. This book is beat the fuck up. My boyfriend gave this to me. I don't know what he was doing with this shit, but this shit, I don't know, got eaten by rats or something. I didn't finish this. I am currently like a little bit more than halfway through the book. So far it's really sad. I don't want to give like any type of review on this book yet, but some heavy stuff in this book, I will most definitely do a full review. But so far the story is beautifully written. Everything just is, it fits together so seamlessly. I cried during that book also. My boyfriend told me it's kind of like loosely based on true events, and if so, like, ugh, I pray for those people, seriously. That is all for today. I hope y'all enjoyed. Thank you for tuning in and watching me do my makeup and literally yap for I don't know how long. Yeah, I look so good. Do you like my lips? If you like the video, click the thumbs up, comment, subscribe, hit the bell notification if you really fuck with me. If you want me to like actually do a deep dive into a book, I'd be more than happy to do so. So you can leave recommendations of books you want me to do like a deep dive into in the comments below. I also want to do like a similar type of thing with video games, because I do want to put a dent in some of the video games I have backlogged. I also want to replay some games and also reread some books, so that could be fun. We'll see how I try to mesh the things together. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye.